One thing you've been very open about is your relationship with Nick. You mentioned the abuse. You mentioned just kind of, some of his dark desires. Something that really bothered me when I was watching the act is he comes across a little sympathetic towards the end. They highlight his autism. Do you have any thoughts about that? And despite what Nick did to you and your mother, do you have any empathy for him being in prison and what he has gone through?
I think that we both, like him and I, both have a lot of regrets. Obviously I wish that this would have never happened this way. Now for him specifically, I did my time. I know he's doing his time for his part of things. I hope that whatever he does with his future, because he is spending the rest of his life in prison, I acknowledge that I am the reason for that. However, I don't feel either that it's a situation where it's a sympathetic type of situation.
Okay.
And I mean, the reason why I say that is because in my past relationships, I've had 2 relationships since I've been incarcerated. And each one of my exes and even my husband is like, baby, if you would have asked me that question, if you would have said, hey, can you kill my mom to get me out of this situation? They would have said, no. Okay, no, we're not doing that.
Let's go to the police.
Let's go to the police. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get you out of this situation, but let's go to the authorities. All right, and we're gonna do this the right way. Nick did not say that. He has these dark fantasies. He wanted to do it. It was a fantasy he lived out, and he's paying the consequences for that. So with that being said, it's neither here nor there for, in my opinion, what I think of the situation. It's just, it is what it is.
All right, Greg. I'm going to have Chase go first. Chase, what do you got? I'll quit that. I'll quit it. All
right, I'll go ahead anyway then. One thing I love about this clip is that it shows the power of statement analysis. And she says, I wish it would have never happened this way. And I thought this was interesting. I think this is showing us escape versus death. Escape versus death. And I think Gypsy's words suggest that she was looking for a way out of her mother's grip. And I don't think necessarily aiming for her mother's death. And she might have hoped for a way to maybe break free from the abuse that she was facing. And now regretting that her freedom came at a high and maybe a violent cost. That stood out to me as the number one thing in this video. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, and we'll disagree a little bit on this one, because when she does that, see that shoulder? It is more pronounced than any other shoulder shrug she's done in the entire time. She says, I wish it wouldn't have happened that way. And the other reason I would say is because I think she shopped. I think she went after a guy. She had other dating profiles and all this other stuff, was sending pictures to all these guys. But this guy that she chose, that she's surprised did this, you mean the 400-year-old vampire split personality guy? You're surprised that he did something crazy. Come on. That's irrational.
Wait. You got to unpack this vampire crap. What are you talking about?
So she's on a dating site. She runs into more than one person, but she finds this guy and she starts talking to this guy, and he tells her he's got one of these personalities who's Victor, the 400-year-old vampire. And so she now courts and brings Victor into the business. That sounds like a throwaway to me. That sounds a hell of a lot like having a game set up. But more importantly, in the beginning of this, there's a cut in that video. Did anybody notice that? Really big cut. And she looks annoyed when she comes out of that cut, which makes me wonder, is there some back and forth between them? By annoyed, she exhales, she withdraws the sides of her mouth, and she pulls her head away very quickly. It's just very instant to see it. So she's got this vampire guy. That makes stuff to start to fall on deaf ears for me. Look, she can be recovered. She can be a person who has turned into the most wonderful person in the world, but still has to lie about some of these key points. And that's what I think we're seeing here. I think she cultivated a persona for this guy, and she shot for somebody she could throw away that was a cutout. If you don't believe that, listen to her word pattern changes and all that shift. When she gets to, it's not like it's a sympathetic kind of a situation. She says a whole lot of words. I don't even remember all the words. Chase, you're really good at tracking those. I didn't. But it's not like it's a sympathetic kind of a, That's distancing language for I don't give a shit is what it is about what happens to him. She can't come out and say that because she'll not look like a sympathetic human being. But this is the one piece in this whole thing that makes me believe that she shopped for somebody to do her dirty work. And we're going to hear some language that may confirm that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you've got to rebrand yourself and you've got to talk about the horrible thing you did. It's dangerous territory.
So there's a chance he could be in prison for the next 400 years.
Unless he's made to go into the courtyard at sunrise. But he has to remember, he's got a split personality. He has to be in the vampire personality when the sun comes up, I guess. Mark, what do you got?
So a lot of control on this one. We got some epic steepling. And this is a very controlled gesture. I almost messed it up there. It's so hard to do for my little brain.
We're still waiting on Hannah to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Has she got there yet? Has she developed her steepling reflex as yet? Not there. Hannah's not there yet. We await the steepling reflex to kick in. So there she is, steepling, a lot of control there. I acknowledge that I'm the reason for that. She, like you were saying, Greg, sympathetic for that type of situation, which doesn't, and that's put forward because the interviewer has said, well, he came across quite sympathetically. Now, I don't think she likes that at all. She reaches for the water. There's a lot of adapters that go on there. I don't think that's the story she's after, is him being a sympathetic character here. I get your idea there, Greg, about her shopping for somebody there. Let me put another idea forward. What if she was shopping, but she didn't expect it to go that far? And in fact, somebody takes control of it and takes it way further than she wanted to control it. And once again, she's not in control of this situation. And now there's a huge amount of animosity for this person who took it too far. And once again, she's in the wheelchair, has zero control of the situation. And this is something she actually wanted some agency over. And so she doesn't want sympathy for this guy because she's gone back and she's done the work of accountability. She knows that pre this crime, she did other things and she can take accountability for that. And has he done the work of accountability around that? And therefore she is at, she has the high ground on him right now. And she wants people to know she has a higher moral ground than him. He took over. He did the act. She didn't do the murder. He's the murderer. She's not. Scott, what do you got on this one?
But she asked him to kill her mother.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's where my theory falls down horrifically.
Well, the single shoulder shrug, like you guys are talking about, is back. And when she talks about Nick, her cadence slows down as well with all that. So it's almost, it sounds like she's asking her Alexa one of those complicated questions about, how many pennies go into $1 million and things like that, because it slows down. And it's in these little chunks of information as she talks about this guy. And she does a lot of that up talk. Everything ends up in a question. Also, it's like if you're talking to Greg and you say, "Excuse me, sir," your facial expression, it's scaring that busload of children like that, which as that vocal fry gets on your nerves, Chase, that gets on. There's another thing that happens there. It crawls all over me, which I'm hoping nobody else caught. You probably did, but you might not. You decided not to say anything about it, but I'll point it out here in a few minutes. But what I found interesting is the dramatic change from confidence to being unsure what she's talking about when she's talking about Nick's situation. So for me, that was a big, this isn't an interrogation, so you can't go diving in with a bunch of questions and stuff, and you don't want to get up and leave or something or break that groove you've got going since they're getting along. But that sounded a little bit odd to me. Then when she steeples and like you're saying, Mark, she says, I acknowledge I'm the reason for that up talk again. And she says, all of that's super slow. And then she continues goofing around with her finger. or their index finger. That's sort of reserved for someone who's really having a problem being confident. They'll do this. A lot of times you'll see a kid when something's wrong, they'll play with their hands, and they'll find one finger and they'll pull around on that. So that's what we're seeing there as well. So she doesn't like this subject from everything we're seeing from her behavior. We would see, or I would see that as someone who doesn't like talking about that. She's really uncomfortable with it. Her answers aren't she's not as equipped with an answer, ready with an answer as she is for the other stuff for that. She may not have been expecting it. I have no earthly idea, but I don't think she likes that one at all. And it sounds like she's blaming Nick for not correcting her when she was suggesting that he kill her. When she said all these other people would have said, no, don't do it, call the police or whatever. So it sounds like she's blaming him. So maybe that's the part that's missing out of this for me anyway. All right, that's all I got.
Greg, it's Henry II asking for the Archbishop of Canterbury to be killed.
Yeah.
And they're going, no, I didn't mean it. Who will rid me of this troublesome priest? And then they go off and they kill the guy, and it's like, I didn't
really mean that. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the whole idea of bringing the 400-year-old vampire into your house.
But I think when she saw that, she's like, got him. There it is.
I think,
she's looking for somebody to do
I got my little qualification list.
No matter what happens.
I got a qualification list. Capable of violence. I'm rifling through people and I see 400-year-old vampire. Oh, that's the guy. That's the guy.
That's what I'm saying. Anybody starts talking about split personalities and they're telling you about it, that's the one you want, man. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and do that. I'm just saying in her situation, if you run across that, that's your boy there.
And look, like I said in the beginning of this thing, if we were talking about a woman who was being beaten by her husband and she shot him, we'd probably go, he probably earned that.
Yeah.
So I'm not defending the mother by any stretch. I'm just saying, I think she might have been shopping for some help.
Yeah.
One of those tape replays.
Yeah.
One thing you've been very open about is your relationship with Nick.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the abuse. You mentioned just kind of, some of his dark desires.
Mm-hmm.
Something that really bothered me when I was watching the act is he comes across a little sympathetic towards the end. They highlight his autism. Do you have any thoughts about that? And despite what Nick did to you and your mother, do you have any empathy for him being in prison and what he has gone through?
I think that we both, like him and I, both have a lot of regrets. Obviously I wish that this would have never happened this way. Now for him specifically, I did my time. I know he's doing his time for his part of things. I hope that whatever he does with his future, because he is spending the rest of his life in prison, I acknowledge that I am the reason for that. However, I don't feel either that it's a situation where it's a sympathetic type of situation.
Okay.
And I mean, the reason why I say that is because in my past relationships, I've had 2 relationships since I've been incarcerated. And each one of my exes and even my husband is like, baby, if you would have asked me that question, if you would have said, hey, can you come my mom to get me out of this situation? They would have said, no. Okay, no, we're not doing that.
Let's go to the police.
Let's go to the police. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get you out of this situation, but let's go to the authorities. All right, and we're gonna do this the right way. Nick did not say that. He has these dark fantasies. He wanted to do it. It was a fantasy he lived out, and he's paying the consequences for that. So with that being said, it's neither here nor there in my opinion, what I think of the situation. It's just, it is what it is.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.